Yeah, welcome back, y'all. Look at all the nice things people are saying in the chat. It's so much appreciated. Hey, Michelle. Sammy, thank you very much, by the way. And Kimberly, good to see you. What's going on? Mike was on earlier. That was a good live. He's not feeling all the best. Hopefully he feels better shortly. Maybe he needs a little nappy poo. Oh, yeah, Mr. Hemi, what's going on? Get in here, everybody. Hurry up. Let's go. Get in here. Let's talk shit. Just waiting for my electronics to catch up. Oh, there it goes. It's starting to pick up. What's up, Ilyanka? Susan Bezio, good to see you. Helicopter Granny. Stacia in Cleveland. So it's a year later, over a year later, and we've learned that you can't trust anything that the suspects had to say from the get-go. Therefore, friends, what happened? What happened to Jack and Lilly? I really have a hard time believing that they even made it home that Thursday, because not one of them has an acceptable timeline, aka alibi, excuse. It's been messed up since the beginning, and Janie, their third person alibi to all of this, has even fucked it up. She's totally against even talking about what time she went to bed on Thursday night, as though she wasn't even there. I wonder if she was actually there Thursday night. Wonder when things started to get and turn into an emergency, if you know what I mean. There's so much that we don't know that the RCMP has information and access to that would be interesting. Forensically, it should be easy to verify that their device was at least there, and was it active? Hey, Ilyanka, I'm good. Thank you very much. Brian Sutherland, hello. It's sad that the one thing that they're not very convincing is how they all claim to really pretend that there's nothing wrong whatsoever within the household. Everything's just hunky-dory. There's nothing to see here, and that they're simply victims in all of this. Victims in all of this. Good God. But the 5-0 still have to figure out what happened to Jack and Lilly. It's funny when I sit back and think about it, how in limbo the situation is from the perspective of the suspects. They've got all kinds of rope. Oh, Jesus. Man, it's never a dull moment with them. And the audacity of these individuals, all of them wanting to play this off as though they're in a desperate situation where they've been victimized, and they don't want to talk about or share any of the information when the conversation or questions should come back to Jack and Lilly, or back on topic to what it should be. They can and don't want to share any information because they need to they need to not jeopardize the sanctity of the investigation. Like they're in a position to do that. Well, of course you are, because you're a suspect. Only a suspect would say that. There's no reasonable explanation otherwise for that. Look at how loosely they just slipped that in. That's been that's been a pattern. Oh, look at how I've been victimized. All playing stupid. I don't even know how that blanket even got in the tree, says Malaya. Oh, yeah. That brought me back to looking up what exactly Brandon told me. Where did I put that? Friday, June 5th, 2026 at 2:38 p.m. Was that it? Hold on. Let me go to the next one. I think it's on the next one. I mean, Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 12:33 p.m. Hi, AB. I drove out to Lansdowne today to independently verify the timing outlined in my statement. I wanted to ensure that my recollection was as accurate as possible. Using the same route and maintaining the same general driving pace, I arrived at Gerlach Lake at 10:27 a.m. I then continued to the location of the pink shirt where Alvin, his silver Honda Civic, and the wine-colored vehicle were located, arriving at 10:43 a.m. I allowed approximately 5 minutes for my conversation with Alvin and for inspecting the pink shirt. I then drove to the end of the road where Emily Hayden and the driver were parked, which took approximately 1 additional minute. This places my arrival there at approximately 10:49 a.m., and after my conversation with Emily, you could say they pulled away at 11:01 a.m. and headed down Stewiacke Road. After conducting this verification, I am more confident than ever that the timeline originally provided is accurate. While minor variations of a minute or two are always possible when reconstructing events, the timing I gave from the outset is substantially correct and supported by real-world testing of the route. I've remained consistent in my account from the beginning. My recollection of what I observed has not changed, and this exercise has reinforced my confidence in both my observations and the timeline I reported. Given the importance of timing in this matter, I felt it was necessary to verify the route personally. Having done so, I stand by my statement and the events as I witnessed them. Excellent. Yeah, Janice. Janice is in my chat. What are you saying? She couldn't even answer in the interview about what life was like before the kids went missing. Well, that would lead to all kinds of uncomfortable questions that she doesn't owe you anything, Janice. Don't you understand? Cheryl told her that she doesn't owe anybody anything. Talk about the exact opposite thing you want to say. They're just not very good at perpetuating a hoax. Or propagating one, for that matter. Oh, Jesus. Did she say that? She's trying to politicize this? Yeah, well, it's going to be tough sledding for you, honey. You're not sneaking in anywhere. Your case, this case, Jack and Lilly's situation sticks out like a sore thumb because of the lack of evidence and cooperation by you assholes. Sure, that's what the cops have you thinking. There's going to be a major exception to this little PIM interviewing technique that they have to abide by. Let's remember they have procedure and policy to enforce, specifically their own in these circumstances. I don't like to get too hung up. Like I notice people, you can't help it because it's just something people do. I don't hold it against them. But all of this woulda, coulda, shoulda done, the police, to a degree, could use their own due diligence, but they still have to abide by Canadian law. And they still have a policy and a job to do, to abide by that. There's specific training for these situations, and they stick to that no matter what. So even from the outside, to me personally, I'm sure there's all kinds of things, and it's always just the way of things that cops would have done differently. And hopefully they recognize that right away so they can adapt and change as they go, and they do. Mike went on today, but cops make fucking mistakes all the time. I'm just saying in this particular situation, it's easy to get downtrodden on things that you think are potential mistakes. Anita had this long conversation today about her interpretation of what clearing the scene means. Who cares? Who cares what your interpretation of what clearing a scene means? Oh, shit. But she doesn't feel that the scene was treated really as a crime scene. But I think it was, to the best of their ability. They had to deal with what was presented to them. The one thing that didn't slip by them is the fact that everybody's inconsistent. They're lying. And there's something more to this situation. They've never had a solid alibi for any of this up to and including this present day. They don't want to speak on it. They don't want to go into grave detail about exactly what has happened to them. They just want you to assume. Trust them. They're not lying to you. Yeah, Yonka, they have to because we don't want any evidence thrown out in court. Yeah, that would be but what sticking to the procedure was. So when you hear that when I see that there is a Daniel talking about how thankful he was to that one police officer for allowing him to go back into the woods and search. All that in my eyes is them let him to do what he had to do in the moment, but it's not like he's not able to be followed up on. It's better that people observe what he's doing. Maybe it can lead to more answers. But we don't exactly have the timeline of events as they happened. We can just put together what it is that we know. We know that they avoided the police and they avoided treating this as an emergency situation from the get-go. Like you call the police there and you want the police to know, guys, that it was 20 minutes and that's what you're sticking by. It was only 20 minutes before you last heard them. Massive distancing. You're not confident in your own alibi and you want to distance from it. So you incorporate this hearing because it's easy to pull from your related memories of the children. Thank you, Sammy. Well, what's going on, Donna? Good to see you. Read you something because we are now talking about timelines based off Brendan's statement. In the paperwork, reading straight from it, the affidavits. Janie McKenzie subparagraph 4, subparagraph B, paragraph 4. When she came outside after waking up again, she saw Malaya standing at the rock pile holding Meadow. Malaya said Jack and Lilly were missing for about 20 minutes and she had called 911. Janie got her coats and boots and walked around looking for them. Daniel was searching for them. Her brother called again around 10:19 a.m. That was Ron, called her back at 10:19 a.m., 10:20. That's pretty much when the cops arrived. So I'm imagining that there's a certain portion of people that are in the know in this little escapade this morning. Because there's a reason why Malaya didn't call Henry Brooks, her father, or that part of the family. Why only bring a few people over? And to do what exactly? Well, because you needed them to bite and buy into this bullshit story that you're spinning. But putting the blame back onto Jack and Lilly for walking out of the trailer only to disappear right under your noses. When the fuck is that ever an acceptable excuse? Her brother called again around 10:19 a.m. after all this had happened. What had happened? Malaya called her mother, who came to the house. When her mother arrived, Malaya talked to her and said, "I told you they had autism." Wonder why you didn't bring up this autism factor like you brought it up the first day. Malaya talked to her and said, "I told you they had autism. I told you they had autism." More victim blaming in the moment. Family members started to show up. One of her brothers went to get an ATV. This is presumably just after 10:19. Next steps in Janie's description includes a brother that's already there. Boy, that's fucking quick. Boy, oh boy, that's quick, guys. Mind you, Brandon said he wasn't dressed for the weather, let's say. Janie said for the rest of Friday, she searched for the kids with her family members. Well, Janie provided some background information. Janie was concerned about the timeline because there was no way the kids could have walked from the yard. The immediate contradiction, the immediate problems. It's almost like an attempt to sidetrack the cops in the moment. Janie was concerned about the timeline because there was no way the kids could have walked from the yard up to the road where Daniel was in a vehicle without her seeing them. Well, who cares? Why would you say that in the moment? What does old Danny have to do up on the road? Janie said when the kids were in the yard, she usually watched them the most. Redacted. She said the kids were in school Monday and Tuesday because the bus picked them up right outside their house. Wednesday was an in-service day and they were home, but they went to their grandmother's house to do laundry and didn't get home until 10 p.m. Thursday, they didn't go to school, but they were in the yard playing through the day, and she gave them snacks that she never ever remembers to mention after the fact, especially when questioned on Lily's black eye. Janie said old Malaya and Daniel are having financial difficulties. Redacted. Janie said Jack would not go for a walk on his own. She said she, Jack, Lily, and Daniel went for walks in the woods all the time, and they had to carry Jack sometimes because he got tired and would just sit in one place. Janie said she does not believe the kids are in the woods. Cindy Clark, how can the children be described as being autistic when the children probably never saw the inside of a professional clinic for a diagnosis? Right. Because it's their interpretation for child protective services, for all the calls they're getting from school and the issues that they're having because they're throwaway kids. The children who aren't being tended to properly, nourished properly, cared for, nurtured. They're being yelled at, locked in rooms, bullied, and resented. It's a schedule, Sammy. The vaccine schedule for kids in school, they do it usually there. The local health unit looks after it. You're saying like never once does MBM mention Jack and Lily having a favorite home cooked meal? Like they would request on special occasion. Well, according to Anita, Malaya can't even open a can of tuna because she gets confused over using the manual can opener. Well, granted, can openers are the types of things, if you lined up 100 of them from all different eras, you could probably get confused as to how exactly to use one. But as soon as you're onto it, the good thing is to make them simple, honey. Here, let's have a little lesson, girlfriend. Let old daddy show you how to open a can of tuna. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anita's talking about how she couldn't open it one up. But it was just the regular old, hold the handles tight together and twist deal. Some of them are real pain in the ass if you don't clean them properly if they rust, but I don't think that was the case here. They probably got the $7.99 ones. Janie normally went shopping with her brother on Friday mornings. She normally texted MBM when the kids were outside. She didn't do either, but she raked the driveway for no good reason. And she doesn't know what time she went to bed. She refuses to answer the question. Didn't even want to take a shot at it. Oh, shit. Mrs. Transparency. She's not here to lie to you. She's here to omit, which is a form of lying. It is lying. Yeah, I question that. I question that, Sammy. Not in the past 2 years. Not since they moved out to Gairloch Road. Nita had a couple things to say about that too. He caught on to you, Mr. Hemi. He banned you. He banned that account too. Who are you talking about? Mike? Maybe you need to upload a public apology video to your account. It's freeing. Well, what did you do? AB, there's something else that I'd like to point out, and I'll leave it up to you and others to consider. Based on my statement in Emily's account, which I believe contains inaccuracies at the very least, when I saw them leave that morning, they had plenty of time to drive back to Truro, pick up Haley after she got off work, and then return. Now think about this. They later claimed to have found and noticed the pink shirt and blanket in that tree that afternoon. When they came back, I was sitting on my ATV and personally watched Emily and Haley walk over to the shirt with the RCMP. Again, I never witnessed any blanket ever. What I find interesting is that the same people I saw there in the morning, who, according to my understanding, did not mention being there that morning in their statements, were also the people who later found the shirt that afternoon and made a statement. I get it. There's this little part here I want to bring up. I thought I had it ready, but I might have to look for it. Oh, I found one portion of it. Hold on. I'm reading this the wrong way. Just give me a second. I think it might be in the other communique. It's also important to point out that there was multiple meetings and extensive conversations with major crimes. We discussed the individuals in question at length. Certain details regarding Emily remain protected because of her age, and I will continue to respect those boundaries. Um, you asked about Daniel being pulled out of the mud, and I'll tell you what I was told. During the weekend in November, when PBMH was conducting its scam search, I was also out searching behind the old Getty's property and the dumping grounds behind Daniel's. Before leaving, I decided to do a few more loops around the area. By that point, I had been followed for what I believe was the third time by a red Dodge Ram. I decided to stop and speak with the driver, as I was uncomfortable being followed. This individual had appeared on multiple occasions in areas where I was searching or parked. The person turned out to be Wayne McKenzie. I pulled over on what I believe was McLeod Road, although it may have been Matheson Road, the road that Harvey McKenzie lives off of. I pulled into the side and Wayne pulled up behind me. The interaction began somewhat heated, but I was able to de-escalate the situation, easy big fella, and we ended up talking for over an hour. Some of the things Wayne told me were deeply disturbing. There are certain details I won't share here, but all of that information has been provided to the MCU. Regarding the vehicle being stuck, Wayne told me that the night before the children went missing, or, as he later corrected himself, possibly 2 nights before, as he could not clearly remember, Daniel had gotten his Dodge Journey stuck and badly damaged it. Wayne stated the family members asked Daniel where this happened, but old Danny boy refused to tell him. He also said they asked who pulled him out, and Daniel allegedly told them it was a friend, but he would not identify that person. Wayne appeared very upset with Daniel and expressed anger over what he believed Daniel and Malaya had brought upon the family. He told me he hoped Daniel would go to prison, and he also alleged that Daniel and Malaya had been starving the children. Those allegations came directly from Wayne himself, who was a member of the family. Now, one question that stood out to me was why Daniel would refuse to disclose where he became stuck or identify the person who allegedly helped pull him out. Just one moment, please. So there's a paragraph here where he mentions the diaper dump. And it's interesting that the MCU, the Major Crimes Unit, came and took all of it. And he vividly remembers there being two sizes of diapers, one baby size and the other size being a pull-up. Like Jack was allegedly still waiting. Or wearing, excuse me. So on May 28th, I was out searching that area and came across the diaper dump. This is maybe a kilometer from Daniel's house on the Larrick Cemetery Road and into the woods about half a kilometer, I'd say. There was two types of baby diapers pull-ups, and about 200 feet up the road on the opposite side was the second pink shirt with baseballs. MCU picked this up that evening. I went back after sending them video and photos of the certain location, and they took every fiber. Well, it's time that came out. Well, that would be the RCMP recognizing patterns early on. The purple bloody underwear and black and white boy's root sock and the girl's white ankle sock and the little girl's purple headband. That was found off of Lairg Road proper by Garlock Brooks Falls where Daniel fishes. Came in as an anonymous tip, and I went up with my dogs and we found it. RCMP collected it all. Appreciate that, trail hiker.
Where they did the command post was up the road. It wasn't near the trailer, it was up the road. And they were left at the trailer so people could come in and out. The trailer was not secured, or Janie's or the property. And where the command post was up the road quite a bit away. So anybody could have went in and out of that property from the pipeline, the back way or whatever, and snuck stuff in or out. And I'm not sure how it works when the search and rescue come and when major crime shows up. I assume Mr. Rob McCam came and he would take over the investigation. But maybe later they went down to try and secure the area or to try and search Janie's trailer. And she did give what's the word I want to use? She didn't voluntarily do that. She gave them a hard time. And somebody asked a question in the chat about Daniel's dog. I mean, about
Oh no. Are you telling me I was muted all that time? Oh, you guys can't hear me? For fuck's sakes. I was muted all that time. Oh, shit. Oh, man. I just read all of that out. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. How many words was that? I just read you like 7 core investigative steps. Are you fucking kidding me? Well, practice makes perfect. Sorry, everybody. I feel foolish. Now I owe you it because it was so relevant. Here, we'll try this over again. We had a little break. Wasn't very restful. Oh my God. How do we want to do this? Here, let me do this. Go back 3 minutes. All right.
Yeah, I think they went over it. That's what they were doing.
Give me my
They
segue.
were destroying any kind of evidence that the cops could have found. And they were successful with it. And they should.
And Mike,
That's
I
why.
still think it was chaos. I think when Brandon came upon people, Hayden and Emily would throw the shirt there, throw this there. Cindy orchestrated it, do this, do that. It was chaos. It was like, go over there. Whoever ripped the blanket out of the trash bag, throw that up in the tree as you're driving by on the ATV. Like, how did it get up in the damn tree? Like, come on.
And now, guys, this is why many times when people want to search voluntarily, they're being turned away because they need professional searchers to make sure they secure everything. Especially, they will not allow family members because there is a high percentage when you have children missing or crimes against children or anything that it's what word should I use? Inside job. It's from the you don't want these people there helping. And this is exactly why everybody should have stayed put. Everybody should have been on their properties. The area should have been taped off and only the professional searchers. But again, not people who look for 2 little children a mile away from their homes that they could have not reached.
And Mike, even the neighbors, some missing children, the neighbor kills the children. Nobody who lived around that area, nobody, like you said, is a professional, shouldn't be allowed anywhere near where the children possibly could have wandered to.
Here's what Pink Drink is saying. Hells Angel is above the police in Pictou County. RCMP is in Pictou to handle all the homeless addicts. The Hells Angels. Yeah, where are the Hells Angels, people?
Mike, I can confirm. I asked around. There's no Hells Angels in Pictou County. It's a different group. And the reason why, there's no money that way. There's no Hells Angels in Pictou County. I know who runs Pictou County, and maybe she needs to be corrected. There's no Hells Angels in Pictou County. That's why Daniel was the king of the king. He was the Trump of Pictou County. Apparently, they said he made some good stuff, and I wouldn't buy a shoelace from him. Never mind drugs.
Oh
Shake and bake, baby.
Yeah. I was told different. And another thing that I find strange, and I could be wrong, but Cindy and Malaya were talking when after I thought there was only 2 or 3 police, like what I call marked RCMP officers in uniform, went to the property where they did the command post was up the road. It wasn't near the trailer, it was up the road. And they were left at the trailer.
My segue was going to be Anita talking about the mistakes, but it's good enough. I'll retry this so you can hear me. So the RCMP investigations into high-risk missing children cases Follow standardized national policies, for example, operational manual chapter on missing persons, provincial policing standards where applicable, such as Nova Scotia's or BC's, in major crimes management MCM principles when foul play is suspected. Children are treated as high risk by default. The scenario I described, 2 missing children, highly deceptive last caregivers with problematic statements, evidence of neglect and abuse, and eyewitness accounts of prolonged crime scene manipulation, plus evidence planting that contradicts the caregiver's account of the prior 72 hours, would trigger an immediate, intensive, high-risk missing persons investigation with strong indicators of foul play. Now, the initial response and risk assessment: anyone can report a missing person. There is no mandatory waiting period. For children, especially young ones, the response is urgent. Officers complete an initial risk assessment without delay. Factors elevating risk include age, suspected abduction or victimization, suspicious circumstances, history of abuse or neglect, and inconsistencies in statements from those last in contact with the children. The case is scored and treated as high risk. Resources are assigned immediately. A senior ranking officer and missing persons coordinator or equivalent are notified. The investigation is continuous and active. If foul play cannot be ruled out, the file is referred to a major crime unit, serious crimes branch, or equivalent specialized section responsible for homicides, suspicious deaths, and missing persons cases involving suspected criminality. Major crimes management is applied. MCM is a structured methodology used by the RCMP for complex or high-risk cases, including missing persons where foul play is suspected and non-familial abductions. It features a command triangle, which consists of a team commander with overall authority and accountability, a primary investigator, and a file coordinator. Clear investigative strategies, communication protocols, legal or ethical considerations, accountability mechanisms, and partnerships, all steps are being documented rigorously. Now, there's 7 core investigative steps that the RCMP use in this situation, in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually. The first is information systems and alerts. The children are entered on the Canadian Police Information Center, CPIC, database promptly so every Canadian police service has access. Neighborhood inquiries, video canvases, and BOLO, be on the lookout notices, are considered. An Amber Alert is evaluated if criteria are met. The victim is under 18. Police have reasonable grounds to believe an abduction occurred. The child is believed to be in imminent danger. Sufficient descriptive information exists about the child. There's a big problem there that day. Possible abductor and or vehicle, and the alert can be issued in a time frame that offers a realistic chance of recovery or apprehension. Criteria and authorization processes can vary slightly by province or territory, but the threshold is high and reserved for the most serious time-critical cases. Second is scene scrutiny and search. The residence and any other relevant locations are secured and searched thoroughly, including places the children might hide or where evidence could be present. Even if caregivers claim otherwise, consent or judicial authorization search warrant is obtained as required. Forensic identification specialists process potential crime scenes carefully to identify, document, collect, and preserve physical evidence while maintaining chain of custody. Indicators of staging, contamination, or planting are examined forensically. For example, inconsistencies in physical evidence, transfer evidence, timeline mismatches. Third, evidence collection. Personal items suitable for biological samples like a toothbrush, hairbrush, etc., familial DNA samples, medical and dental records, and fingerprints are requested as soon as possible when foul play is suspected or within set timelines otherwise. These support identification via the National Missing Persons DNA program managed by the RCMP in partnership with the National DNA Databank and other indices. VICLAS Violent Crime Linkage Analysis System booklets are completed when foul play is suspected. I should look that up. An acronym, VICLAS, Violent Crime Linkage Analysis System. Fourth is interviews and deception handling. Caregivers and others are interviewed, often multiple times. The RCMP uses the phased interview model, which is a hybrid information gathering approach drawing on the PEACE principles, another acronym, rather than purely accusatory read-style methods. The focus is on obtaining a full account. Good luck with that here. Building rapport where appropriate, then strategically challenging inconsistencies with known evidence, which is strategic use of evidence technique. Objective verification against independent evidence is prioritized over behavioral lie detection, which is recognized as unreliable. Problematic or deceptive statements are documented and tested against the reconstructed timeline. Phone records, CCTV, financial data, witness accounts, etc. Polygraphs may be used as an investigative tool in some cases, but are not definitive. Fifth, eyewitness accounts of manipulation and planting. These are treated as critical leads. Witnesses are interviewed thoroughly and separately, including our Canadian hero Brandon Lemieux. Their accounts are assessed for reliability, consistency, and potential corroboration, like physical evidence, other witnesses, digital records. Investigators examine whether accessories or associates engaged in scene alteration or evidence planting. Any such activity is investigated as potential obstruction, evidence tampering, or related offenses. Forensic examination looks for signs of staging, for example, altered scenes intended to mislead the investigators about the nature or timeline of events. Both are happening here. These fuckers are misleading us about the nature and timeline of events. Sixth, background and collateral investigation. Prior child protection involvement, criminal records, custody status, and associations are checked. Child protection authorities, provincial territorial equivalents of children's aid societies, are contacted for concurrent investigation of neglect and abuse. Neighborhood canvasses, social media, border alerts if relevant, and other agency assistance, transit, taxis, airports, CBSA are pursued. Production orders or search warrants are sought for records that may assist, like from phones or banking, video. The National Center for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains can provide specialized support, analytical assistance, national data sharing, and profiling on Canada's missing. DNA comparison occurs under the National Missing Persons DNA program when criteria are met. Behavioral sciences sections may assist with analysis of staging or offender behavior. In complex cases, additional resources, search teams, cadaver dogs, specialized forensics, undercover techniques such as the major crime Mr. Big operation in appropriate later stages can be deployed. Oh, a little honey trap for you, baby. Family liaison is maintained though carefully managed when caregivers are persons of interest. Risk is reassessed continuously. All actions, decisions, and rationales are documented. The primary goal remains locating the children safely. If evidence indicates death or criminality, the investigation transitions fully into a homicide or related major crime probe, while still seeking recovery. Charges, if warranted, require corroboration beyond statements, physical evidence, digital records, reliable witness accounts, etc. Exact procedures can vary by RCMP division, provincial standards, and the specific facts that develop. Policies emphasize promptness, thoroughness, documentation, and avoiding barriers to reporting. In practice, the combination of deceptive caregivers' abuse neglect history and direct eyewitness evidence of scene manipulation would drive aggressive forensic, Digital interview work focused on reconstructing the true 72-hour timeline and testing the caregivers' accounts against independent evidence.
So people could come in and out. The trailer was not secured, or Janie's, or the property.
Yeah.
And where the command post was up the road quite a bit
Hey, Jude.
away. So anybody could have went in and out of that property from the pipeline, the back way, or whatever, and
Yeah.
snuck stuff in or out. And I'm not sure how it works when the search and rescue come and when major crime shows up. I assume Mr. Rob McCam came and he would take over the investigation, but maybe later they went down to try and secure the area or to try and search Janie's trailer. And she did give what's the word I want to use? She didn't voluntarily do that. She gave them a hard time. And
Exactly.
somebody asked a question in the chat about Daniel's dog. I mean, about the dog. Hold on. And they said, how could it be put down at this? Well, oh, wait, I got to find it.
Go for it.
Hold on.
You know,
They said, Janie said, well, Janie said a lot of things that are lies. If Janie really put the dog down at a certain time, she would have called the vet and showed the receipt for the vet.
well, I
Hold
can
on,
always,
where is it?
if you need a minute, I can always play Janie's Got a Rake based on the request.
Oh,
that
okay, we can play that. There's I believe people listening who've never heard that song and they like to hear it.
Yeah, we got a very special
She
request.
doesn't like it, so it puts pressure.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me cue this stuff
Oh,
up.
it says, I thought, Daisy May says, I thought in Janie's last call, she said Jordan's dog died Christmas 2025. So how can Jordan be crying over his dog on May the 1st? We don't know that. Janie just says that. But Janie
Yeah.
says a lot of things that are not true. We don't know that. And she can
I'm-
show any dog being put down Christmas 2025. She had another dog. Maybe it's her dog she put down and she's going to pretend it was Jordan's. I don't trust what she says.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, let me just take care of something here because I don't.
Mike, Janie and Cindy, Janie's protecting her two sons and herself, and Cindy's protecting her, Hayden and Malaya and herself.
Yeah. So here we go. You know who you are. Here's your request. This is a timeless, oldie but goodie, and it highlights some of the absurdities that we have listened to, witnessed, and heard when it comes to the two missing children, Lily and Jack Sullivan, but most of all, the three grown-ups that were on the property, who, in my opinion, know exactly what happened to them.
I know for 100% they won't find anything.
So what do you make of the fact that they are bringing the cadaver down?
So there's a caveat. You're talking about this Eli dude. This is just a side thing that Anita's brought up. She's trying to associate it, and there was all this. She gets influenced by areas that she probably shouldn't in that sense. And there's some confusion. I wouldn't worry too much about who Eli is in all of this. People wanting to talk about, oh, by the way, this isn't a place where you can attack Anita Maxwell, by the way. No matter what she says in that sense. But she's not trying to suggest that there's organized crime, there's biker groups involved in all of this. She's relaying what she's being fed by a questionable source that nobody trusts to begin with. And it's not coming up here, so the audience can get confused. So the issue is the only thing that's really happening in Nova Scotia anywhere in relation to bikers are some wannabe associate clubs. Nothing serious, because if you're into the biker world or the like, it's all about Hell's Angels, maybe the Banditos, depending on where you are. And there's no major national or international organized crimes associated with anybody directly in Nova Scotia. There could be all kinds of little clubs, and there always is little clubs. If you got a bike, you have that's a normal thing. But let me remind you that bikers are not into stealing kids, not into buying kids or getting back and hurting kids because you have a drug debt. They'll just hurt you. Okay? Stop dragging organized crimes names down. It doesn't happen like that. That's where this conversation keeps going in relation to Eli and bikers and all of this fucking nonsense and proximity. Okay? These clubs go to their way to rectify situations where children have been mistreated. Anyway. Yeah, no. No, they wouldn't. So, I mean, where all that comes from is just really Anita entertaining that question and the topic at hand. Anyway, she shouldn't be doing that, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to hold her back from just conversing on the top of her head. She just takes it to places. Do you know what I'm saying? She just takes it to places. That's why I included that definition. So, you can avoid doing that. The cops just don't get there and decide what they're going to do at the time. Anyway. No, nobody's, not even Anita's suggesting that bikers are taking kids in that sense. She's saying the same thing I'm saying. The problem is that when you pick it up and start talking about it, maybe you caught it in chat, then you're bringing relevance to the topic and then people misunderstand it. It's just something that needed to be ignored. But there's people in the background actively manipulating, and Anita is incorporated into that. Not selectively. People are going out of the way, and it's just a byproduct of that. There ain't no reason in this circumstance to really incorporate all kinds of ghost suspects in all of this. I just had to stop and clarify all of that, because primarily I wanted to clarify that it's not Anita suggesting any of that. And all of a sudden, with conversations in chat, all of a sudden wanting to associate Anita with the suggestion that bikers could have done it or blowing it up this way and that, when she's not actually saying that to begin with. So it's just a nonsensical. This is not a new video. This is just over a month ago. So we're not exactly up to date. There's just excellent conversations with Anita to be had.
That's him.
Janie's got a right.
Well, I'm actually pretty happy about that.
Janie's got a right.
I even hope that they bring more than one.
She's got so much to do.
So what are you happy about?
Creepy. If you really listen to it, he sounds creepy. And I just keep going back. Like when I'm in a store, different places, and I see children the age of Lily and Jack, I think, oh my God. Like even Clown Man, he's creepy to a little kid. He's creepy.
Go ahead. I'm just thinking about what I was going to say. Yeah, thank you. I was going to say that about the vacation part. Oh, the vacation part. Yeah. God. Sorry, but this
Mike, imagine you're in bed, you're 6 and 4, and you hear them up all night. I keep
Yeah.
thinking about that. And another thing that somebody said to me, and I went silent, it was actually Wade's sister. She goes, I walked in the door, she went out to the trailer, and she goes, the smell. She goes, you wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. I said, what smell? she said the trailer smelled terrible. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh my God, these poor children. It probably had something to do with the septic. It had something to do with the rats, the cats. It had something to do with probably them smoking, whatever. The what do you call it? The wood stove was old. It probably wasn't proper. I was told by Cindy and a few people, Lily always had like a bit of a cough, and
Hmm.
probably
Yeah.
Cindy thought it was the mold to do with the older trailer. And imagine you're laying in bed sleeping and you wake up and they're playing like crazy music, saint music, they're yelling, tweaking out. You would never.
Oh my God. What? They're playing Ozzy? Like, what? Come on. Satan music? Come on, Anita. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. What, like death metal? I don't take them for a bunch of metalheads.
A little kid would be scared.
That's true,
Right.
though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but
Did
right
you
now,
did you really look at Chance? His ears are stretched out. He looks freaky. If you look at Jordan before and then when I seen how he looks now, skinny and his hair's falling, they look crazed. They look like every trauma they endured's coming out. Even Clown Man. There's a reason he looks the way he does. There's something wrong with him.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Of course there is. It's not just because they look the part. But you're right about that. They all share, they all smell of it. But not solely based off of how they look. But yeah, you're right. Darren Geddes does look like a chomo. Oh, look at how nice and sexy that mustache looks. Oh.
Absolutely. And you know what? Here's the thing, man. The way that these people react when they're getting accused, rightfully, they are used to getting away with everything they wanted to get away with. So drug abuse, child SA, all of this being normalized over there. And they are truly offended with outsiders looking at them. They don't like people from the outside coming in there. If you go to the pizza place that they all meet and they don't know you, believe me, you will feel it. From what I never been there, but from what I can imagine. I can only imagine. These people are truly offended that we don't let them live their life the way they want to live it. They have their own rules. Darren is like maybe more powerful there than a police officer to these people. I mean, that's how crazy it is. He's a clown, but over there, they're living backwards. They're completely backwards people. So, and they all shut up when police comes. They don't. That's the unwritten rule. That's bigger than the law of the land. You know what I mean? They do what they want, and they're truly offended that we get into their business with the bus driver and his brother and all of that.
Think about the personality types that they fit into. Darren Geddes loving kids in the clean way, and that freak chomo Kent on global news crying about random kids. What about the kids? What are the kids gonna think? Well, he's got all kinds of weird food in his fucking beard. Just an absolute weirdo. And the bus driver. They all fit the same profile. The bus driver needing to drive kids to school. They need to be around children. They all sound like chomos. It's not for any one thing. It's a combination of everything applied to what it is that they're doing in the situation with two missing children. Covering their tracks. Well, you're asking a question there, Maisie. Was it ruled out that they didn't have a party there the night before? What is ruled out to you? I would say it depends what you're calling a party. What's a party? A gathering of individuals? I would say, yeah, there was a collection of individuals there the Thursday night. There's more than the 3 people there, represented by eyewitness accounts, hearing more than one car coming and going from the property throughout that morning of May the 2nd. And let's not forget local Nova Scotia hero, Canadian Man of Steel hero Brendan Lemieux's eyewitness account of Alvin and Emily and Hayden and Tan Man, who was driving there at 10:48. That would suggest to me that they were already there. There's a group of people. Were they partying? That word doesn't really mean anything in this situation. There's something else that happened. It's a possibility, and there's a strong possibility that there was a group of individuals involved. But I think terming it a party is trying to frame it in an isolated way where they're trying to rule something out or include something. Well, don't be ruling anything out considering the nonsense that they're feeding you. None of it fucking occurred the way that they suggest it did. There's no suggestion that the kids ever made it home from Dollarama. There's no evidence. And their stories for the Thursday evening are highly problematic, filled with holes, and empty time frames, empty timelines.
They don't even think about you're right. Maybe Lily was, as he actually abused, and we need to do something. No, they don't think along this way. They're like, well, it happened to me and it happened to her. You know, that's kind of the attitude they have. Leave us alone. This is our area.
And Mike, they really believe when you're isolated.
That is a real problem, Jennifer. 792 says a genuine parent would be in panic and actually blame themselves. Yeah, no matter what. Never would you say I'm a great mother and that everybody owes you answers. Yeah, I can't agree more with that. That's so ridiculous. Like, imagine a person who's been victimized. You would be going through this scenario over and over again, wondering how it is that you got otherwise victimized, how this would have happened. And no matter what, you would have been blaming yourself for not doing something to protect your kids. At least at bare minimum, even a little mention.
That I know people like that. They believe the police are bad. I'm serious. And they believe this is the way things are done. So and so's uncle molests children. That's okay. And some places it's really like that. And who am I to talk about it or expose it? I'm sure that if I got Mrs. P alone, she would tell me why Clown Man is the way he is. She would. I believe that. There's a reason why Cindy said to me he's a creep and a sickle. There's a reason why Cindy said he had a business years ago, was successful, and her exact words were he pissed it all away and
I probably gone into Danny's math.
he thinks he's something. So at one time he had a business and did well, but he probably got into drinking and I don't know, probably women and run.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Darlene. All right. I don't know about this beard. That ugly chomo mustache has been around ever since people laid eyes on him, ever since he went up on Dolly's, I believe.
Running around, and I'm not sure, but I was told these things that he broke his son's ribs and beat him up. Jordan probably was a boy that was more sensitive and caring, and to a man that's like I call them caveman or savage men. My son, my youngest son, is not a fighter. He's not. His father is more aggressive, but I had to pull him aside when my son was about 10. I said, listen, he's not going to be a fighter boy, and you're not going to beat that into him. You need to respect Riley. My son is more of a skateboarder, kind of a, if you met Riley, you'd think he was from California, like a beach laid back guy.
Yo,
He's
cool
not
fish.
aggressive. And I had to explain to Eric, he's not like me and you, and that's okay. And you have to accept that. And he did. He listened to me. He did. But some men have a hard time, especially with their sons,
Okay, let's try to keep it on topic, honey.
that their son's not like a tough guy. And I
Yeah.
think that's what happened. I'm not making excuses for Jordan's behavior, but I will say I believe Jordan was in active addiction when he would call and be crazy. I think when he first called me in the morning, he'd wake up, have a few drinks.
Mayflower, you're saying in the days you've been in Pictou County, I've not seen Darren, Danny, KC, JM, or the other side. You've seen the beautiful Logan several times. Well, is that sarcasm? Because her eyes are way too close together, if you've ever seen a picture of her. And she's got this underbite. There's something wrong with that girl. Bucky, you're going to take Meadow that particular day just to serve a purpose to the suspects. You hadn't even met Jack or Lilly. You didn't even know Meadow. You didn't even have Malaya's phone number. What a bizarre thing. And then you turned around and started to prank her. Call her and hang up. Run surveillance. Such a bizarre scenario. Kissing cousins.
And by the time mid-afternoon came on the bus, he would be, whatever he did, crazy. Because he would go from nice to crazy, that he wanted to kill me, that he was sorry. To me, Mike, that's pain. Chance,
Yeah.
Chance is different, and I think Daniel's different. I believe if I was around Daniel when he was really high, he would creep me out. I think Daniel enjoys tying up women and doing sick shit. Anybody who can beat a little boy and hang him
Mm.
upside down, something's not right. I know lots of people. I knew a lawyer who did cocaine and he didn't beat the kids or the wife. Like what my father always said, take a person, it's like a bottle, and whatever's inside, when you shake
Yeah.
it, will
Well,
come out.
the thing is that the people there, I think you're making excuses for Jordan, but hey, maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I think Jordan was, let me see what Johnny says. I think Jordan was codependent and an enabler. My son is non-aggressive and non-confrontational. He's more sensitive, a deep thinker. Yeah, you know what? Why is it? Absolutely. I mean, I don't even want to talk about that guy, but please, this is your floor. I mean, I want you to say what, when I came on today and I thought,
But you're gonna laugh how I think things. The other day, I heard the song "I Fought the Law and the Law Won," and that's how
Mhm.
I think of them as like not all people in Pictou. Don't get me wrong. There's probably good people there.
I don't think I think the law hasn't been winning.
Come on. She gets into these, maybe the people you know, but there's in Nova Scotia, there is a long historic divide, let's say. It's more prominent and out in the open. I'd say like the divide. Like even back in the 80s and 90s, they used to separate kids in class. Dirty and stinky from the not dirty and stinky. Kids from the hills, kids from rich farmers. But you can't say everybody. I hate when she does that. There's lots of goodness around there too, but in areas where it's rule, it's a lot more common because people can get away with it. It goes unreported. Trail hiker, you're just talking about how Logan is beautiful. Oh, she is beautiful in her own little way. I'm not comparing her to beauty standards of any type. In fact, you'd be shaking your fist at it. She's using some heavy eyeliner and being angry at the world. But she's not. She's just uncaring. Looks like she has poor hygiene. That's just from, I'm not even it could have been just that day.
For a long time in Pictou. I think they're winning, man.
No, I'm not gonna let you pick on the law. I'm gonna tell you something.
No, not the law. I pick on Pictou, not the law. I like the law.
No, I'm gonna explain something, Mike. When I really show you one day, I'm gonna drive there. And when I show you how isolated and where they live, the police were like, they live in the woods. They want to live like that. They're not
Yeah.
gonna go there unless and the police, like regular policemen, not detectives, who drive by, wouldn't go to that area unless they're called. And when they got there, they're like, these people are fucking hopeless. They've been living like that for 30 years. I said to my friend the other day, she said something, and I said, oh my God, I didn't think like that. She said, can you imagine the officers who went there and saw the state of the outside in the trailer? And when they went home to their wives or families, went, oh my God, these poor children. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And I am going to side with policemen because my dad was a policeman.
Go ahead. Just
Not
go ahead.
not all policemen are bad. There's good policemen who love their families. I wasn't my father's biological daughter. I was 3 when he met my mom and married her, and my sister too. My father did not beat me. He didn't beat my mom. He wasn't mean. And I'm going to tell you, he had a son, which is my brother, his biological child, but I was his favorite. And I don't know how my father did it.
So,
When he would come home, he didn't bring work home. Now, I knew a couple times as I got older, my father would go in the basement with his buddies and play pool. And my father wasn't a drinker, but once in a while he'd have a drink. And I used to love it because he had this globe. And when you opened it, it had whiskey and a couple things. And once in a while he'd have a vodka and orange juice. And one night I said, Dad, what's wrong? And he said, I had to shoot a man. And I said, well, I'd rather you shoot him than him shoot you. And he laughed and he goes, you better get to bed. And a real policeman who care and love their families, Mike, nobody calls the police when they're having a good day. They're not.
you know,
And
Where the fuck was that going, Anita? Edit that out. Let's stay on topic, please. Can we get back on topic?
point is, can you imagine, not the patrolmen, because the patrolmen who live out there, they know the Pictou people.
I mean, it's not so bad. It's not so bad if you're going to tell a story and relate it to whatever it is that you're talking about. But to get sidetracked and just go into talking all about yourself, not what I'm tuning in for. Who cares? Fucking cares. But I don't hold it against her. She's just got a bad habit. Heaven's sakes, girl.
But I'm talking about major crimes who came from Halifax and went in the trailer and saw. Can you imagine Janie? They went home and said, holy fuck, this is going to be a crazy fucking case.
again, they are desensitized. I don't think they are necessarily have to say these poor children. I think they've seen so many children living in crappy conditions that they are more interested in we gotta solve the case. I would be. I am very mind over matter when I have to be. that I don't allow myself to be
Sammy Sparrow, you think Jack was the main target, unfortunately resembling his dad and all of that? Yeah, well, I think that probably goes for both kids, unfortunately. You know, anytime a caregiver can only talk about really what's a negative statement about the children, and that's all they've really talked about is negative statements, there's a problem. DM probably resented him. Lily probably got caught in the crossfire sticking up for Jack. Well, that would be a very specific way of determining. It's a possibility. I mean, that would be a common thing. Maybe it happened all the time. Like Lily, definitely, it sounds like she was more than aware of how wrong it was that there was things that were wrong with the way that she was being treated in the home. And if she knew, Jack knew. That she digresses too much. Anita, oh, I do too. She needs to tell you how she knows that. I watched that on 2020. Oh, fuck. It's all right, though. I've grown to get used to it. But I hate saying anything. I don't want to say anything to her because then you get her all off kilter. You have to let it flow. Sometimes things come up that are relevant, which you wouldn't have changed it. That happens all the time with Anita. Malaya didn't use the time with the interviewer to show a picture of her missing kids. What are you holding that against her, Meep? You weren't buying any of it, Meep. Neither was I, though. It's called blowhardism. I guess. She's certainly not an introvert. She would be the opposite, I would expect. Always chatty, something to talk about. And she's motivated. When Mr. Daniel showed MBM the not a farm, wouldn't you have run a mile? No, she thought, let's get knocked up. Yeah, so it would seem. Hold on.
how do I say this?
Mike, I'm gonna fight with you on this. Analyze, go back to the first press conference, not the female.
Yeah, I know
but the
that one of
officer.
them, but that was only one of them. That was only one of them. I do agree with you, but I think that I personally, I for example, when I think about Jack and Lilly and I talk about them for a year, I also feel very bad about the fact that because of how they sidetracked, because of the circus that Belinda started, we don't get to talk about other cases. What makes Jack and Lilly more important than children suffering even more? So I put everything into perspective. So sometimes when people talk about them so much, I'm thinking about, okay, they are dead, but there are other kids who are suffering the same way or even worse right now. So this is to me a difference between crying over what already happened and trying to solve or prevent what's happening or about to happen. And so I know it's very fashionable to talk about how sad people are for Jack and Lilly. Well, I am more like, okay, there's a stage of this is acceptance right now, where I'm able to look at just the brutality. And I see Daniel smiling on camera. He's enjoying himself. And this is the abuser. This is the guy who made 2 children suffer. And this is something I want to bring up again and again and again and again. Because Daniel, given the opportunity, will do the same thing to other children. If he has another woman
What are you talking about, Captain Justice? You're talking about Danny. Danny's going to jail regardless. Dan will be seeing extensive jail time out of this, Captain Justice. He can make a deal and still be going to jail. He's not making a deal and staying out of jail in this case. He's be going to jail.
A single mother who has a nice car, has some cash, he will do anything that he can to get this relationship to work. And guess what? The kids, they're not going to be happy. So for me, it's a lot more about prevention, actually. That's why I spend
But
so much time.
Mike, go back to Earl and Tent and the explosive behavior. Then go to Janie. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to explain it. Look at the environment that Daniel was brought up in.
Yeah, what do you
And
mean you don't? What do you mean you have to explain it? I know that already. That's why I'm saying that the cycle has to end somewhere. Somewhere the cycle has to end because it's on repetition. It's on. I become calm in a crisis. Johnny is saying, me too. The moment I hit the mind over matter stage, I don't get emotional. I do later, after, when I'm able to. I can be uncomfortable with calm and normal, but I learned it was because of my upbringing, as oldest and experiencing violence in the home.
Well, to be talking this way or that, I mean, it's relevant because it's possible, but you're suggesting that you're coming to terms with saying that Daniel is responsible for this alone. I think the more, especially after Malaya's last interview, you can see that it seems that she's more or just as responsible as everybody else. There's there's alibi, and it's not just about covering for one another. It's about covering up for the group. Whatever happened to Jack and Lilly was probably the result of the actions of more than just one or two people. So I'm open to whatever. I'm just bringing it up. I'm just mentioning it, VB. You say, is it me or does MBM and DM describe more about Lilly than Jack? Could it be Jack came to harm and then Lilly ran off in fear? I cannot help sway that in my opinion. Well, who knows about the specifics at that point in time? If that was the case, it would seem, well, what happened to the second child? If one child was unintentional, what point does it become intentional? When you want to cover up and then red rum the second child? It would bring into question your intent with the first child if it was so easy for you to take the life of a second child in order in that moment to cover up your wrongdoings. You know, there's a reason that they were running around with the kids at that time of night on Wednesday at Walmart. What a ridiculous time. Your behavior wouldn't suggest that the kids were sick, number one, but you have strange behaviors when you're out and about with one another. Were they dropping them off for visits? Were they arranging a play date? Were they dropping the kids off at a sleepover somewhere? Something happened? That's a subtle way of saying that Daniel and Malaya were in that moment exploiting the kids because of the intent and the reason why they were at that possible play date, we'll call it. Sammy, you're saying MBM is their mother, and yes, she's even less empathetic, or at least not even trying to pretend to care. Well, it's just so, it's always, there's nothing that she's going to do or say that isn't going to be suspicious. Why? Because of the lack of information and cooperation, the lack of natural norm explanations for what she claims to be so traumatic. They're skipping over the events. Well, she's telling you straight up that she's not giving you all of the information, or she just plainly wants to skip the question. Just like Daniel, she doesn't want to jeopardize the investigation like the good, solid suspects that they are. An innocent person wouldn't even think to say such a thing in this case. That's such a tell. Helicopter Grandma, good to see you. They were both sick. Who the hell does that? How about at home with soup, a blanket rest, and being taken care of? That's just the excuse to the cops. And they weren't sending the kids to school for whatever reason they're not being very open about. But the RCMP would have well investigated that perspective because they've been talking to well into the CPS reports and things like that. The concerns from school. Sick with what? And they're Malaya. What were they sick with? A cough? Whoa! I don't think so. Well, Ilyanka, yeah, there's something to that. You want to tie the dog in the situation with the dog that Mike's on about. Yeah, I'm with you too, and it doesn't have to do, like, you don't have to draw any conclusions from it, but you can tie it in. Imagine Justin's dog around there, for example, or the dog in question being around and getting into the mess that potentially was made that Janie had to shovel away in dirt bags. Maybe the dog was out there behind their back lapping up, because dogs fucking eat anything. They eat their own shit. Right? So even when you're trying to clean up a crime scene, it's in question. I mean, granted, it's the first time I've heard that the dog's stomach was cut out, but you know, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I don't want to influence in any way. I just have all of a sudden now the dog's stomach is cut out. Seems like that should have been information that would have been present back when, you know, the conversation was being had about the dog. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. I just know that Mike was talking about it. So, I mean, I'm not so sure about all of that. But he seems to, was at least considering it. Yeah, there's something about that dog that causes sensitivities in her language, you mean? Points of sensitivity, yes. Maybe because Justin did live there. Right, Ilyanka, that's the thought process. There's so much that would be on the RCMP's body cam. Dismissed or corroborated. Not that means that you shouldn't stop thinking about it. Just recognize where the RCMP probably already know the answers to what it is that we're thinking of. Not that it would in of itself make them act in ways. I'm not trying to dismiss it like saying, oh, this can't be true, or else they would be in handcuffs. It's not how the investigation is. No, it wouldn't be. Oh yeah, VB? I can't remember that. Janie probably watched. Yeah. She's well aware of to what actually happened. Yeah, I mean, Darlene, it's such a bizarre scenario because there's more than just a stomach. Like, what about the dog's entrails and its esophagus and its tongue and mouth? Wouldn't it just be easier to bury a dog instead of take the time and cut? It seems like it's more like a sacrifice, but only with the stomach cut out, not the heart of the fearsome animal. It's just such a bizarre scenario to imagine. Like, I could get the dog. Is it, Lily? Is it Justin's dog? Don't know. It's a thing because they mentioned it, I believe, on the search and rescue, the recorded, conversations, the radio chatter that day. But I'm with you. You'd think that'd be easier to do that in a different manner. Your first thought was remove a bullet because teeth would still have DNA, or did they burn the stomach in the wood stove? Just take it to another spot and get rid of it. Separate it from the carcass. I don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. I mean, it would say that the potential is that dog probably got into something, not that it ate the kids, or, they're going to find bodies in its tummy like a gator. But it could have significant DNA evidence, and you're trying to you got to remember that mathematics and the substance was a definite factor in the decision making of the caregivers in the time frame in which they don't want to be accountable for. No, I mean, not true. Depending on what you're talking about, everybody around there. What does that mean? Everybody would hear Lily scream. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Neighbors? Are you talking neighbors or people on the property? Who you mean? Lily's scream is just how they identify her as. And yeah, the most annoying thing is how they refer to and talk about Lily. That's sad. Darlene, someone in Mike's chat this morning said that CPS was coming to the trailer Thursday, and that is why they went to town and stayed away all day. Could be, it's plausible. Like, I mean, there's definitely a reason why they would have been a factor. If the issues weren't going away at school and it didn't improve, then calls wouldn't stop. Removing the dog's stomach seems like a math-induced decision to try to remove evidence. It doesn't have to make sense. Yeah, that's true, but, just keep it in the back of your mind, I guess. That's true. But still, you're taking the dog with all kinds of trace evidence all over it regardless, and you're putting it in a place that is going to be, and it did end up being found. If there's a dog with its stomach cut out, maybe the whole damn thing should be put into evidence. I'm surprised that they came and picked up every fiber of that diaper dump. The MCU somewhere has a bag of disgusting, shitty smelling diapers. Or how did they treat that evidence? They'd have to document it properly to exist. Maybe they'd have to, I don't know how that would go. I'd be interested to know. Don't assume, hey Bonnie, Lily screamed all the time. We have not been told that by credible people, and the birthday party video is an isolated incident, not a pattern. Oh, true. No, it's a pattern of screaming. It's a pattern used by the caregivers. They all relate this scream, including the bus driver, in a negative manner, associating Lily to this. That's what the pattern is in that sense. So it's a pattern of negativity, negative references by way of the caregivers, instead of thinking about all the positive things that would be going through your mind should you have truly loved your child. The dog could have eaten a stash, which is why the stomach is cut out. Yeah, could have eaten a stash. That's more reasonable. He needs that 8-ball back. Stupid dog. I'm going to have to die. I mean, loosely, I guess it does kind of fit the overall pattern with taking things out around there and dumping them by way of the individuals on Garlock Road. Now, is that everybody or just old Danny boy? Because you damn well know that the diaper dump is associated to the property on Garlock Road where Meadow and Jack were using the pull-ups. Same age category as the ones the MCU picked up. Thank you, Helicopter Grandma. I appreciate that, darling. You could have waited for the poor dog to poop, Darlene. That's probably the more reasonable thing to do. The dog had to get put down and regardless. The way that they speak about the dog, it just, man, it's just such bullshit. It's hard not to agree that there's something to this whole dog thing. They don't want to talk about the dog because of the fact that it got discovered, perhaps. Yeah, they have waste collection in the county. I don't know what his thought process. He's got some tweaked out logic that he associates with. What it does is tells you that think about how little you care about your kids. This is how you treat anything associated to you that you find burdensome. Yet, you know, changing diapers all day, especially filled up ones, takes up a lot of weight. Pretty soon it adds up. And you're not wanting to handle it. So you just think, fuck, I'm just going to go out and dump them. Who's going to know? It saves them so much convenience in that moment. And it shows you what Daniel does to deal with his issues. Same thing he did to Jack and Lilly. Took them out and dumped them somewhere. Where is the question? He's got all kinds of places. Well, the thought process is, Jennifer, that the evidence was what old Janie was helped shovel up and raking out the dirt that was allegedly disposed of. So it could be two things. It doesn't have to mean that the body is sitting there bleeding and there's all kinds of blood evidence on the ground. Maybe it was, maybe it's not. How do we know that the deaths didn't occur at a certain time and they toted around the bodies and it left trace evidence there that they don't want, you know, to be picked up? Like something happened elsewhere and they just had a pile of contaminated things, contaminated clothes, contamination bodies. It doesn't all mean it has to be due to the dog going wild on the kids. Dogs are usually more of a pain in the ass and don't do as they're told, especially if there's things around that pique their interest, like snacks, food, steaks on the table. Blood. Decomp. It probably wouldn't do much. It would evaporate pretty quick, Darlene. You could probably tell by even less grass around there. Yeah, I don't think that's really a thing. Because we have to trust at some point that they were out seen in public all together. Jack and Lilly included. So it comes back to something happening sometime on Thursday. The more we find out, the more in question the 2:30 time slot onward is really in question. That's never been clarified or even talked about. When it has, it's been inconsistent, major omissions and avoidance. An area of sensitivity. Maisie says, I honestly think MBM knew after to go home. Her safest bet to get away with this. DM was too high to control his mouth. She needs to get away in order to get away with this. Yeah, I know what you're getting at. I mean, I don't disagree. It's all just too purposeful. Like there's purpose, and it has to do with trying to get away with what they otherwise would be difficult to get away with should they be together, because of how things ended up with Jack and Lilly. There's a multitude of problems on their part. But what they had to continuously remind themselves of is Meadow. Meadow is a wrench in a factor of influence in this between them. I put more credibility into what Wade and how Wade described it about taking Malaya out of there. And obviously the conversations would have really shifted past that day in and amongst Wade and Cindy and other people. Maybe that's when Wade got more clued into about the things that Malaya was saying on the phone. Well, how much could it be? Like he talks about them going and picking her up that December previous to May, the 1st and the 2nd. The problems, there were many, many problems. All of the problems in this relationship. Hey, Corbin. Helicopter Grandma, well, maybe the wrench in the front door was to keep the dog out, not a bear, LMAO. But don't let a board where the patio door is so Jack and Lilly couldn't get out. A little chunk of a hockey stick, a little branch, just to keep it closed. Well, if they had that, they couldn't put blame on the kids. Well, I see what rationale you're talking about. It doesn't make sense that he's so concerned about random bears potentially getting in the front door only to live his easily opened by a bear sliding glass back door open. Yeah, it doesn't fit their particular communication of events. I agree with you, Helicopter Grandma. Yes, definitely, but they're in communication regardless of that through proxy, by proxy, Bonnie, you know. I think that interview was her way to telegraph to DM that she's staying on script to quit pointing the finger at her. Well, she definitely knew that he was going to be watching that. You're thinking the racking was to cover up footprints, but as they lived there, wouldn't there be loads of prints? You would think that there would be all kinds of boot prints out in the backyard. Yeah, it's muddy, cold, wet. That time of year where your footprints would stick in the mud, and there was one out there, seemingly fresh. The only one right where old Janie was raking. Imagine that. Hee hee, Janie. Yeah, Corbin. Well, that's what we're talking about in this a little bit. You don't necessarily have to associate that dog being responsible with solely taking their life, but the dog might be a sensitivity because maybe it got into all kinds of things that would have given them away. That big ass dog, giving them a reason to have to put it down, and assuming that that dog that was found is indeed Lily. Something's not right about their account or the story, for sure, Corbin. But there's too much else for me to rest my hat on. It's got to be the dog and solely. I'm not saying that it's not relevant. There's not, or there's an innocent reason for the area of sensitivity in the first place. There's a darker reason why everybody else is bonded in this story to what it was that happened to Jack and Lily for them to need to cover this up. They all need to cover it up as opposed to need to find out the truth so that they can get justice for Jack and Lily. Not one of them. This channel, Mike, yes. Rarity. Non-existent in those that were close to the victims in all of this. They're all being exploited now by the same people who were left to care from them before that. Why wouldn't we think they were being exploited at that point in time? We would have to. Look at how easy it is and how disingenuous the group is at this point in time. They're not stuck on all of the relevant, reasonable questions based off of the information they should be desperately thanking Brendan and Anita for. Congratulations, you've come face to face with a conspiracy. Maybe MBM put those shorts on for DM. Sorry, not sorry, helicopter grandma. You got your mind in the gutter, girl. You got your mind in the gutter, girlfriend. That's all right. VB, there's that too. That's why I'm saying, like, it makes more sense. I mean, it's possible that the dog, but it's very odd. It's very odd that that would be a situation where you call emergency services. There's more to this story. It's more difficult and not as the reasons that they have to lie is far more dark than something as innocent as the dog going after the kids. The reasons why they have to lie and cover it up. That supersedes the simple responsibility of the dog alone. Now, the dog can be just as much of a problem to the overall conspiracy because it swallowed evidence. It was involved in spreading evidence around that they later had to go and clean up, and Janie had to rake over, like she loves to say. Regardless, it was going to be a dead giveaway of what happened, quite possibly the death of Jack and Lily. Stacia says, I understand that she wore the shorts because Daniel never let her wear them. Yes, it was a message to Daniel when she should have been solely focused on Jack and Lily. Oh, well. No, she's always been nasty like that. I guess there's nothing wrong with the shorts. It's funny though. It's funny regardless. You can tell you one thing. I've seen more wildlife animals wandering around here. If the children had been buried, they would have been eaten. The birds of prey would have signaled remains, not if they're buried. Mayflower. Birds of prey don't come and dig up and eat bodies. Not if it's put in a tote with a bunch of rocks with holes in it and sunken, submerged in water. In a place where nobody's looking. VB, they're paranoid folks, so they probably was worried the dog would bear some evidence, no matter how stupid maybe. Strong possibility. That would necessitate them just straight up lying to this extent. Not to mention that they're fully committed to combating people with, with repetition and reciting the claims that they made to the responding officer that day, just at different tones, in an angry, an angry expression, and less so at other times. But it doesn't make sense to answer questions in the form of statements that you have already given police that have nothing to do with the questions that were probed or asked. Another giveaway. The reason that Jack and Lilly are missing are a lot more dark and sinister and probably violent than the dog actually being the killer, if you will, in all of this. And the reason that they have to go to this extent. Like they don't have a reason. Like they're already at the bottom of society in that sense. They don't have an upstanding position. They're not people in the community, not in politics. Their reputation, if you will, is in the minuses already. They don't have anything to protect. The only thing they have to protect is their criminal activity. Wonder how long old Malaya has been using and abusing pharmaceuticals and other substances. She really needs to get off of all of that. Stacia True, she was already using the interview of her missing children to advertise her political views with that hoodie. Well, she's just holding on to catchphrases and rhetoric. Disturbing. In reality, they're sitting in limbo, hoping that the cops, and trying to push on you that they're just they believe and they know just how innocent they are at this point in time. Well, earlier on, they're just abiding by the old PIM method of interviewing. If I have time, can I show the part of MBM's interview with the umbilical cords on the table in frames and Jack and Lily's shoes and toys she bought? I prefer not to. Why? It just makes me sick. I don't want to make you guys sick. What is it about that helicoptergramma that stands out to you the most? How disingenuous it is? Yeah, her choice of attire was questionable, helicoptergramma. She's definitely hiding something. Probably her tats, her nasty trash tats. She hurt her back when she was a young teen. Somehow having babies didn't affect her back. Epidermal. Probably double up on that epidermal, honey. I've got a tolerance. What about the area of the property, though, AB? What area of the property, Walt? See, it sounds like the RCMP, I want to know all of their whereabouts. That was a topic early on for them, trying to figure out where Danny and everybody went afterwards and the reasons why. But what was going on, presuming that there is a larger group of individuals that now, if you're woke to Brendan Lemieux's morning of events that day, something else is up with more people that were there. So what do they usually do when they get together and hang out? So that ties back into all of the trail cam videos that they were canvassing people for. I wonder how much trail cam footage that they have. So another interesting thing is if you go onto Google Earth, you take a look at the pipeline itself. All of the evidence is accessible and very close to the pipeline. All the way up from where Daniel likes to go in between those two cemeteries from St. Andrew's Church, where they found the bloody underwear and matching headband and the root sock, the one with feces on it. All a place frequented by Daniel up in there. Down in there by his fishing spot, you can jump on the pipeline trail and go south. That'll take you right by the diaper dump and the pink child's t-shirt with baseballs on it. And you go down a little further and it takes you to where Emily Oakley was running out of the bush by that pink t-shirt hanging in the trees. All these children's clothing and things that are dumped out there, dude, all have to be connected. Now, forensics will tell a story to all of that. I'd be interested to know why old Danny thinks it's okay to dispose of diapers that way. Diapers don't break down. They're one of the worst things for the environment. It's disgusting. Why would you spend the entire day as a family and individuals that they chose to pull in the other portion of the family? Because now you have to think that there's certain members of the family that weren't in on it. Like Alvin at this point in time is questionable, considering more than that, considering he was seen to be with Hayden and Emily Oakley doing something in the woods, looking worried and stressed out, inappropriately dressed. Looks like they were setting up to a little staging of the crime scene, manipulating the crime scene in order to, sell this story to Haley and then some. And to bring some sort of rationale, some sort of logic to the cops as to why they're spending so much time down in that area in the first place. Because it makes no sense for you to call the RCMP stating that you just saw the kids 17, 20 minutes ago, even 30 minutes ago, and for everybody to be fucking out and about all over Hell's Half Acre with no clear direction. After you called the RCMP, your protocol that day as a victim of a crime would be completely different. Firehorse. MBM knows full well what side her bread's buttered on. She didn't even have her band card until a couple of weeks before her children disappeared. Now she's advocating for land back. No, she's trying to align herself with political movements to use as a distraction and to convince people that she's just naturally a good person and a caring mother. That's fucking weak, girl. You've got nothing to stand on. You've got no basis. No, honey, You're not a good mom. No matter how many times Cheryl and that other Down syndrome looking broad that you hang out with tells you that. Nuh-uh. Your sea dogs did not alert on anything at the church? Your sea dogs. Cunt dogs? I think a skunk or possum turned over some of the ground. The other unsettled ground looks old, in your opinion. I don't know where you're talking about, Mayflower. And the brother who wouldn't let them search his property because of the mean ram? Yeah. No, you're talking about something that has to do solely with that fake ass search group, PBMH. The Scissor Sisters. Who cares about that, Meep? Get that out of your mind. Garbage. Fuck them. We're talking about the actual situation with Jack and Lilly, not the presented one by Malaya and her Scissor Sister sisters. Will be interesting, Helicopter Grandma, to know the truth. The objective truth, not the subjective one given to us by that scary old horse beast, Janie. You say the first place would have been to go to JM's RV and ask her if she heard Jack and Lilly or saw them? And JM did not say that DM or MBM. That would have been the natural thing. That would have been the natural thing. And this whole hearing the kids as opposed to seeing them, no, not good enough, kids. That poor ram with all of those out of control males around there. Out of control males. Oh, sexually, you mean, VB? I don't know if they're banging rams. That's weird. Well, I'll be interested to know the truth, Helicopter Grandma, like based off of the responding officer's body cams, to see how, was it Constable or Corporal Curl and Janie's little back and forth went when she wanted to search the RV and Janie didn't want her to in the first place. That whole little inside incident within all of this is of great interest. Janie doesn't want to represent it in a truthful manner, which tells you that it's an area of sensitivity. Not letting us in. She won't let us in. Doesn't mean that nobody is not going to eventually find out. But there's a reason for why it is that she's acting the way she is, and she's avoiding at all costs. Maybe she didn't want to let him in because of the same reason that she had to get rid of all of that dirt in her driveway to rake over. Because all of her clothes had all of the evidence all over it, and the dirt that she was getting away from would have been tracked right in that RV, and she didn't want him to be in there even looking, noticing all of the muddy boot prints, the pile of laundry that she doesn't have done yet. All paranoid about something that has to do with the reason Jack and Lilly are no longer alive and around, and they need to be reported as, falsely reported as abducted. Yeah, that's just a PR stunt too, Mayflower. Jason, you mean Justin? Yeah. Did Janie want to remove any signs that Justin was living there? Guy stuff? Good possibility of that too. That's a good point, Ilyanka.
I had to recalibrate my system. Yeah, we figure a way to deal with whatever we are given. So for me, I don't get to the point where, I zoom in on the case that I'm interested in. But I keep in mind that just because they want us to only talk about this case, and I may be a part of that,
So
that I'm
before we get any further, if we're taking one thing about this particular video today, all in all, friends, it's how, looking back now, reading Janie's statement, how out of place even her initial statement is to how they went about reporting to the RCMP and then going on about doing their things. She's really identifying that phone call at 10:20. Why was old Ron calling back, and didn't Alvin say that at that time he was already down at Ron's on Lansdowne Road? And which brother was it that was already there at 10:19 when he called? Which brother was there that went back to get the four-wheeler, and where was the four-wheeler? I mean, this time frame, and at this point in time, the way that she's describing it to the officer, it seems that, looking back on it now, you could identify individuals that probably are in the know against other people who wouldn't be as quick to respond. They'd come down and come out when they saw, all of the action going around. But there's people that they needed to drag into this situation at that point in time and sell this nonsense bullshit story to. And then seemingly fuck off, call the RCMP and then completely ghost them and go and do their own thing. As though that's actually an answer in what you should have been done in an emergency situation in all of this. Why the fuck would you be out searching the pipeline, for example, for not just that day, but the whole next day as well? The easy answer to all of that has to do with all of these little areas where evidence was picked up and what that evidence exactly is, and the normal traffic that could be matched back in that time frame to Garlock Road. The more people you bring in, the better, to go back over and fucking mess up tracks in the mud, make evidence or an easy trail for the police at that point in time, so it doesn't come leading back to you, meaning Daniel, Malaya, and Janie at that property. I agree they could have prevented all of that. And I think that that's where the majority of the argument from Anita and Mike come from. About that's what should have been done from their perspective at this point in time. And that was, for whatever reason, not done. Or seemingly not done. By responding officers. So I think that's what their argument is. I don't disagree with that. I'm not in disagreement with that, I should say. But I think at that point in time, there you go back to the purpose of calling everybody and confusing the situation on purpose to responding officers, because it gives the suspects in the moment something to do other than stand there and look guilty to the RCMP and have to answer all kinds of questions that they're trying to avoid. So the more people that you incorporate and add and call on the phone and get back to come out and have them come out and contaminate the extended crime scene, the better to a person who's trying to establish a false narrative. So again, let me just read this final paragraph from Janie's statement. Janie got her coats and boots and walked around looking for them. Daniel was searching for them. Her brother called again around 10:19 a.m. Well, isn't that interesting? After all this had happened, well, what is this? Malaya called her mother, who came to the home. When her mother arrived, Malaya talked to her and said, "I told you they had autism." Family members started to show up. One of her brothers went to get an ATV, and they continued searching. Janie said for the rest of Friday, she searched for the kids with her family members. So much going on around there, around that 10:20 to 10:30 time frame.
I'm just staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up. I heard them playing in the next room beside us. And I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up, and I tell him, my partner, Daniel.
Boy, that doesn't read as it's scripted, it does it? That's sarcasm, by the way. But we weren't aware of it at the time. Yeah, that's a completely scripted story given to you by Daniel. You're not all that convinced of it yourself. Heaven's sakes. Friends, for so long, based off of the little information, we were giving a bit too much green light in order to consider the information that was given to us by the suspects at hand. Now that we know better, you can revise the time frame from when people think that something happened to Jack and Lilly. The real question should be is, how can we be sure the kids ever made it home, considering how much in question right back to Thursday night is? And come to think of it, their account of Thursday night has been off since Daniel told it. It was like pulling teeth. And that's really the meat of all of the information. But come to look at it, it's so unreliable and not credible, filled with, well, avoidance and distancing. You have to question whether the kids either made it home or revise your time to go right back to about, say, sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 after they left the Dollarama, right through to that night. That whole evening doesn't make any sense. They've got no good alibi or rationale or reasoning other than to try to convince you that it was a night just like any other night, just a normal night for a normal crew like this. If you're a chomo, that is. There's nothing credible about the statements that they gave to the responding officers. And you could even see that when you go back and read the affidavits. In Malaya's accounts, it's nothing but I don't know and I think so's. No talk about eating food, suppers, nothing normal in an everyday life, everyday household, a schedule, nothing associated to it. Something else happened. Did it happen away from Gairloch Road? It's a strong possibility it did. Considering the things that we've come to learn about the inner circle and all of the types of evidence found by Brandon, the inappropriate sleepover natures that come by way of the bus driver and Paul Gerald Ward, really adds and sheds a light on the inner circle, no doubt. And the intentions. And let's not forget, they couldn't even remember what the kids were last wearing. It was information that got fed to us long after the fact and then revised. Nothing you can trust. The one thing that was mentioned that was of significance because it was made so by the suspects was the backpack talk and the boots. And we're supposed to believe that the kids selectively put their backpacks on and boots and walked out to the door and disappeared. As opposed to what probably really happened, which was they never got home from the last time they were saw on video from Dollarama. Darlene, you don't know how a person can lie on their two babies' lives? Well, you're watching it. Isn't it just a frustrating, infuriating scenario to watch somebody like Malaya and Daniel lie, especially Malaya? It should give you a window into the probabilities of what likely happened to the kids. An accident shouldn't come across your lips. Unintentional might be a better way of framing it, potentially. But there's a reason why they're bonded, and it has everything to do with what happened to Jack and Lilly. Stacia says VB and MBM expects us to believe that she was such an attentive mother. That's just nonsense. How insulting is that to the audience and the people watching? That interview didn't do her any justice. She really fucked up. There's another lump, another interview that's going to be used against her in the court of law. Show that to the jury. Circumstantial. Hey, by the way,
I tell him, I want to hold them and I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them. And they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. And the next thing we knew, it was quiet. And we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And
Maisie, no doubt, whatever it is that they're only loosely referencing, they're whatever happened to Jack and Lilly, they're truly responsible for, and whatever that is, they know it will get them life. Janie's said it in her language. She's already taken it into account for her own mathematics. She's not bending her story. And if Cindy can lie for Malaya, she can lie for Daniel.
he says no, and we get up instantly. We're looking outside, we're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really go-lucky children. They're so sweet. They talk to anyone. They'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store.
They'll talk your ear off. That does sound so negative, Malaya. Sounds like it was a problem, like that was leakage there.
Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm. We're all filled with pain and sorrow because we just want them found. I'm just...
What baffles me, can you believe it? When Malaya was asked how she envisioned their lives are right now, Malaya can only assume that they're being taken care of. Can you imagine being in that level of denial in that sense? That's not even true denial. That's just an answer she was conditioned to say. because you have to attach it back to why you think that they're going to be returning home and what keeps hope alive, no matter how stupid it sounds. That's the thought, but still, it just goes back to speak to how disingenuous she is and how blatant of a lie it is. Not a concern at all on her face. Not a drop of panic, not a drop of remorse, regret, something that she would have done different in order to have things not unfold as they did, whatever they may be. She's too wrapped up in trying to sell a story that really is baseless, has no grounds. The kids never made it home that fucking day, jackass. But they're so desperate on you believing that something occurred at that house, taking away from the realities of what really did happen to Jack and Lilly, and the reason they had to make the decision in order to call the RCMP and report their kids missing. What drove them to have to come up with a plan? Did something happen at a pre-planned meeting with somebody else? Because it sure looks that they were not only exploiting their own bodies for money, but their children's as well. Now imagine the things that we don't know. Imagine what the truth is in this situation. It'll be shocking. Darlene says children talk a lot at that age. They are learning new things all the time. Parents are supposed to listen to them and teach them. That's part of it, right? The way Anita describes it, it seems that all of this is just an inconvenience to Cindy. She has more than one child to protect here. She has Hayden, her other child, and her own reputation, professional work life. She's got her own reasons to play stupid. Ilyanka says also it shows how MBM has zero boundaries during the TV interview. Short shorts and umbilical cords. Who does that? I'll have to go back and watch that. Umbilical cords. Oh, here's my placenta. Do you want to bite? Yeah, they want to avoid. This is why they rely solely on this audio identification only. Oh, we know they were here because we heard them here. What parent doesn't have contact with their own child in such a long period of time? When was the last time, guys, you guys interacted with Jack and Lilly? By their own admission, you can deduce that they really can't recall the last time they interacted with the kids, especially one who needed to be changed. Jack. Well, that sure is bizarre. Oh, and then when you realize it didn't sound, then you add, I checked on them at midnight, like Daniel says. He adds these adaptations after the fact. They need to sell you that the kids are home because their alibi is reliant on it. That's the agreeance that the kids were home, they came home, and they just disappeared. When in fact, it was all probably happened elsewhere, and it could possibly be the result of one of their organized sleepovers. That would account for the clothes and the early associations. And if something happened outside of their control, they knew that they're going to be legally responsible for it regardless. And if they find out it was a pre-planned meeting with a person like the bus driver or Darren Geddes or something like that, that would automatically bond more than that individual. Something rational or reasonable to believe. Something got out of hand. Maybe it ended up being a snuff video. Who knows? Hopefully not. They all have a propensity and an attraction, an unhealthy mindset towards women to begin with, and sexuality. Yeah, I like Hello Kitty. I don't want to talk bad about it, Elyanka. It's what I theme my daughter on. 20 minutes is far too long to not see or hear a child of 4. Sure. Hey, Amy, good to see you, by the way. They say it was 20 minutes as though that's acceptable. It's a huge amount of time. Well, in this, the 20 minutes is something that they're bound to. Is it possible one of the family members in CPS or similar had tipped them off, and that's why Jack and Lilly were kept home? River Rat, they probably get a gauge of it based off of just what the kid's behavior is or what they were talking about, like Lily, what she was complaining about. I can't tell you that. You don't usually get tip-offs from Children's Aid in that sense, but depends what you mean of a tip-off. Could be tipped off by the bus driver. It'd be interesting to know. It's sadly probably never going to be something that we know unless information comes from reliable witnesses like Lily, Jack's teacher. Well, there's all kinds of evidence suggesting that they were doing that. Like I say, they're not exactly socialites and out in the public norm. These are a counterculture criminals who have heavy addictions. Where would they be sending their kids? Especially kids that they don't know. Like, they're not that old. They're 4 and 6. It's not exactly easy to pawn your kids off. Usually you can use Belinda or Cody, but that wasn't an option in this situation. So they're out of the scope. We know that they were over at the bus driver's place on sleepovers where a sex offender was present, a person who has been convicted of making CP and CSAM. Come to think of it, that probably has a lot to do with the charges that Daniel is facing in front of the courts now. Like mines, into the same things. A window into this little social group. That's what was being suggested to me, that she's putting those children's lives in danger, or did. They were doing it voluntarily in order to make money. River Rat, AB, they would send the kids wherever they could, either make money or get favors. Exactly. And the issue here is that you wonder where they could do that. Well, they have their own little network of friends like Kent Corbett, Darren Geddes, the bus driver, Gerald Paul Ward, most likely other individuals in this inner circle. You already have a place that you know that you could trust, that you could drop them off get money for that, and something awful happened. Jack and Lilly met their violent ends at the hands of a sexual predator that you voluntarily dropped them off at in order for an exchange of money. That would, the reality is right there in front of our faces. You know, it's even more reasonable to think, considering the evidence that Brandon, that was called in as a tip, with this bloody underwear, the sock with feces. I'll even tie the diaper dump in with that shit because it shows a pattern. Maybe that would be Justin, Ilyanka. Quite possibly. Maybe that's where Justin fits into all of this. Strong possibility. The fact that they don't even entertain in the way that they dismiss it indicates more of a sensitivity than it does to be actually irrelevant to the situation. No, Michelle, it wasn't. Yeah, I think eventually Edmonton, he went back out west eventually. We're talking about into the 2 years leading up to that in the time frame. And you don't have to be physically there to enjoy the benefits of digital media. You're sure Janie knew this, Meep, also? She knows something's going on, something. It's astounding watching her behavior in all of this. Yeah, but my problem with that, Mayflower, is I'm not disagreeing with that necessarily, but it's not up to the government to protect your children from the parents in that sense. The parents, the family failed Jack and Lilly primarily. CPS failed by not picking it up on it in a timely manner, if anything. But until we know more of the answers, will we be able to lay the appropriate blame? But no matter what you come back to, the blame goes solely to the caregivers of these poor children, because none of the caregivers had the time or the desire, the gumption, the motivation to have a happy family. It was the children were unwanted by the people that were in their lives, by those whose responsibilities it was to protect them. We can only wish that the CPS got past and saw through the lies and the deception by way of the drug addicts that were in these children's lives. But again, there's policy and procedure, sadly. So although I don't disagree with you wholly, don't put the blame on CPS to sit there and be distracted by what Cindy and Wade mentioned about bringing some sort of lawsuit against CPS. Like, how stupid could you possibly be? Like, talk about overlooking the obvious here of where blame lies. The reason she wants to talk about suing CPS, if anything, is distract away from just how associated she is into lying and covering up for her fucking guilty kids in this, that have everything to do with aiding and abetting what happened to Jack and Lilly and the people who are responsible for that, who are Daniel and Malaya. Even in that, Janie is a third wheel, in my opinion, at this point in time. But she's just as bad. She's got life coming to her as well. Well, Meep, it seems like, even if you listen to the little that we've got from the brothers, that the kids and Daniel and Malaya isolated themselves away, which only comes naturally when not just one, but two parents have a drug problem. They both have a drug problem. That means they're not keeping it hidden from anybody. And when it becomes socially acceptable in the household, all points of your life turn into a lie in that sense. You're living a lie. Think about the hell that Jack and Lilly had to go through living out there away from anybody who could help them. Janie's roosters get treated better. Yeah, Ilyanka, lawsuit should be Cindy and Wade knowing and did nothing to report it. Yeah, there's that argument too. It wouldn't go anywhere, by the way. It's just nothing but lip service to try to distance yourself away from any accountability in the moment. We recognize it. Yeah, you're right on, Rachel. Or Rochelle, excuse me. I won't call you Rachel. Rochelle says the main concern has always been defending themselves against facts, not finding the kids. Exactly. Another tell. And how inconvenienced they are by all of the speculation online. Like, of all the things to say. Janie would know those babies were hungry. If Earl and her brothers knew, then she knew too. Darlene, good point. Yeah, I'd say indirectly that if all of that information would be concerns coming out, I would expect from Janie, right? And Janie's not being forthcoming, and she's omitting information that's relevant to how bad things were on Gairloch Road. It would have been bothering Janie. What do you think that she was complaining about? What do you think she held against Malaya? Look at the reality that was going on. Here's a bitch. She can't even look after her own kids. And it's like she's walking around here in another plane, like it doesn't even exist. Why don't you try looking after your kids for a while instead of, she was obviously observed that, and she took exception, and she communicated that to us in her own way throughout the past year, right? She just didn't want to tell you the exact reason so you wouldn't get more suspicious in the moment. She wanted to control it. But what she's really telling us is that she's such a fucking horrible mother. She had to watch the kids. She had to call over and remind them to put clothes on the kids when they're outside. Well, imagine what she was really doing. Imagine her telling Wayne and Alvin and people that she'd talked to on the phone out there on the lonely nights in the trailer. That's where the information was probably coming from. And Janie doesn't want to communicate that. She doesn't want to talk openly about that. Why? Because it has everything to do with what happened to Jack and Lilly. She knew those kids didn't have enough to eat. Shit, she doesn't have enough to eat. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Annie. Okay, so this has helped you realize that there's plausibility in a couple of unrelated stories. The dog may have eaten a stash of drugs, or evidence. Dogs get into everything. Dogs could have got into evidence. It's a reason he needed to be put down. Was his stomach cut out? I don't know. Keep your mind open. But that's what's being talked about over on Mike's, and it's worth listening to. Make sure you go over and check it out. The children were on sleepover and something happened to them. Yeah. Something else happened to the kids, and it didn't happen on Gairloch Road. There's nothing there in the affidavits or in their statements that would allow us to even be taken in that the kids even made it home on Thursday, especially after listening to follow-up interviews with Janie. I don't even want to say maybe they did. No. There's no reason for us to believe that they did, considering the language that all of the parents are using in the distancing. It all fits into a pattern right back until Thursday, till they say they came home at 3:30. And 3:37 was a call to Cindy. But there's so much more that they don't want to talk about. And it has a lot to do with the questions that come from the phone calls, the 8:28 or the 8:30 phone call, and Friday the morning, the email message from the teacher from school talking to Malaya. It all contradicts what she wants you to believe in her in and out of sleep with Daniel in a bed. Oh, I heard them laughing, but it could have just been a dream. Talking about how you can't quite remember or don't know because you were in and out of sleep around such an important time frame is not something an innocent person would be doing at all. The whole scenario is presented to you to be some sort of excuse onto how or why those kids are no longer on that property where they should be. Not that they ever were on that Friday. That's where they should be. And if both Lily and Jack were on a sleepover, they could have been given something, maybe by the RSO, which made them both so ill they passed. Neither DM or MBM could tell the police. Possibly. One can only think about the toxicity and its effects on a 4 and a 5-year-old or a 4 and 6-year-old and fentanyl, for example. And it could be a lot more dark than that. But that scenario with all of the references to Jack and Lily sleeping over as though it's a normal thing and coming to learn about the types of individuals that were around when they were out on sleepovers, and you recognize how irresponsible the caregivers of Jack and Lily were to make a decision that that's okay in the first place, really is a flashlight into what was going on in their lives. So anyway, friends, we'll be back tomorrow with a continuation. It's going on 3 hours. Thanks for tuning in.